Welcome back to Horror Recaps. I'm Freddy, and in a few seconds, you're going to listen to a frightening tale narrated by me. Beware, fear awaits you. It has barely been 2 months since Sophie has been going out with B, and today they are on their way to a party at Sophie's best friend David's house. After driving the long way, they arrive at a mansion in the middle of the woods. But before entering the house, B returns back to the car to get something she left behind, while Sophie heads inside first. She arrives at the pool where all her friends are under the water, playing the breath-holding game. The first one to emerge out of the water is Alice after seeing her friend Sophie. Gradually, everyone comes out, but nobody expected Sophie to make it to the party, as she hadn't replied to their group chat. And on top of that, everyone gathered for the party a day before. Like Sophie, all of her friends are rich kids as well. There is this filthy rich David, the host of the party, his actress girlfriend Emma, an aspiring podcaster, Alice, enigmatic Jordan, and the only person that Sophie hasn't seen before is Alice's new boyfriend Greg, who looks like he's in his 40s. Soon, Sophie introduces B to all of her friends, and B gives David zucchini bread as a thank you gift for having her there. To celebrate the occasion of Sophie attending the get-together, Alice brings a bottle of champagne, and Greg fancily pops it open with a Gurkha sword, which makes girls drip gravy. Not literally. David gets a little agitated with them for touching his dad's collection without asking him. As they are drinking, it starts raining with thunderstorms, and a while later, everyone moves indoors. Now David asks Sophie to have a chat with him in private. She asks him if he has some problem with Greg. Seeing that he is a bit hostile with him, they also talk about Max giving David a blue eye. Max is their friend who was supposed to be with them, but after a dispute with David, he just left. Meanwhile, Jordan comes to B and warns her to be careful with Sophie. As night falls, they start partying hard with booze, pills, dance, and games. While dancing, Jordan approaches B and asks if she went to college in the States. B replies that she did her college in Utah. And after seeing B and Jordan dancing together, Sophie suggests playing the Bodies game. It is basically a murder mystery theme game where a chosen one acts as a murderer and in it dark, kills people by touching them on their backs. Once someone is killed, they need to fall down and pretend to be dead. And if anyone comes across a dead body, they have to yell out, "Bodies, bodies, bodies." Then, the light will be turned on and the group will try to figure out who the murderer is. Before they start the murder mystery game, they all sit in a circle and have a shot in front of them. It starts with Sophie slapping Alice, and Alice withstanding the pain and having a shot. Then, it's Alice slapping Jordan. Jordan does not hold back while slapping B, and when it's B's turn to hit David, her slap does not contain much power. To demonstrate that she needs to hit him with all her power, David lands a powerful punch on Greg's face. The girls criticize David for hitting Greg so badly. And at last, the only one who has been left to be hit is Emma, who gets a tight slap from Jordan. With this starts the real game. All the lights are switched off and the house is made pitch black. People move sneakily to avoid being killed. B moves around in the house with the help of her phone flashlight. Just then someone screams, "Bodies, bodies, bodies," indicating they found a dead body, and the lights are turned back on. And soon after that, everyone is gathered in the living room. Greg is the victim of the murder in this game, and he lies on the ground motionless. When the others are voting each other as the murderer, B tries to wake Greg up. She asks others why he is not moving. Trying to wake Greg up, Alice tells him that he does not need to pretend for long. But Greg remains unresponsive. At this point, the girls start freaking out, but with a slight touch of a bottle on his crotch by David, Greg flinches and wakes up. Back to accusing each other to be the killer, things turn south when angry David's hostility becomes extreme. Greg excuses himself, telling others that it's time for him to go to bed. Later, while discussing, David votes that Emma's the killer. The unnecessary blabbing makes Alice reveal that Emma and David have a poor sex life. David gets angry and shouts at Emma for talking about him behind his back. When David is voted out, he loses his cool and walks away after smashing the bottle. Once again, the girls sit back to play the next round of slaps and shots. However, with thunderstorms, the lights go off. Sophie thinks it's David trying to pull a prank on them, but weirdly, the phone service and Wi-Fi are down as well. Jordan asks Sophie if he could disable the generator from the garage or the basement, but Sophie does not have the slightest idea about it, so Jordan decides to go and flip the circuit breaker, whereas Alice goes to search for more flashlights. Meanwhile, Bee asks where the bathroom is, and Sophie gives her the direction. However, she gets lost in the mansion. While searching for a bathroom in the dark, Bee sees that David is outside in the rain, stumbling against the glass door with his throat slit open. Just then, Sophie also arrives there and is shocked to see David in such a state and immediately rushes outside. She starts crying for help, and the other girls also come running. Since they don't have service on their phone at the moment, they couldn't call for help. To make something happen, Jordan asks for Sophie's car key, hoping to bring some help. But by then, David has already died, so all the girls go to Sophie's car together. But unfortunately, the car does not start, and it turns out the battery is dead. Now, with no other option, the girls return back to the mansion. Jordan goes to check the generator to bring back the lights, but she comes back with Gurkha, sword stained in blood, which shocks everyone. Just then, Alice inquires if the security system works after the power goes out. Sophie tells her that it does work, and no one can come in without the code. Now, Alice reminds them that Max does have the code, but he did not come last night. Hearing this claim, Jordan tells Alice to stop with her suspicion, but Sophie has no hint about what happened last night and asks to know what happened. Alice reveals that Max had confessed his love for Emma in front of everyone, and that is the reason a fight broke out between David and Max. Next, when Jordan asks Alice where Greg is, Alice tells her that Greg might be sleeping as he left for bed. Hearing this, Jordan points out that it's really bizarre to continue sleeping amidst all this chaos, so she suggests that they check on him. Alice freaks out when Jordan takes out a meat cleaver from the kitchen drawer. While the two girls are in a heated discussion, only Bee notices Emma walking out of the kitchen. Jordan tries to reason with Alice, saying that her friend is dead, and asks Alice not to escalate things. She bombards her with questions related to Greg, but Alice could not give a single satisfying answer since they have just started dating. Meanwhile, Jordan also points out Emma and how she has been missing for a while now. Therefore, the four girls move into a group and search for the actress. But the group that has been led by Jordan ends up in front of Alice's room, so they enter the room and go through Greg's stuff. They find a go bag, and Alice tells them that it is for the preparation for the hurricane. And among other things, the girls find the area map with David's mansion circled on it. Next, they go to Jordan's room, where they find Emma under the blanket. Alice and Emma take a pill of Xanax for her anxiety, and Jordan urges them to come to find Greg. And while ascending downstairs, they see Greg having a nap in the exercise room. The girls immediately wake Greg up and ask where he was all this time, and in response, Greg tells them that he couldn't fall asleep, so he has come down to do some exercise. Since he has his headphones on, he hasn't heard anything happening outside, and neither could he listen to Alice call him. Greg thinks that the girls are still playing the game, so he playfully chases them around roaring. But this really scares the girls out of their non-existent balls. Greg finally sees that the girls are serious, so he asks what's going on. Jordan tells him that David has been murdered mysteriously, and his body lays outside. Being surrounded by girls who are questioning him about why he killed David, Greg feels overly threatened, so he manages to grab the knife from Sophie's hands and orders the girls to put down their weapons. So they all agree to put the weapon down at the same time, but just when Greg rests his knife, Jordan attacks him. And girls think we have commitment issues. Now, along with Jordan, all the other girls start fighting him, but they still cannot match his strength. And in the process, Jordan once again becomes a threat to them when he gets a knife. However, Bee bashes his head with a kettlebell weight and ultimately kills him. And immediately after realizing that the man is dead, Bee starts panicking and begins pacing around the room. Alice argues with the girls that Greg did not kill David, but B is the one who killed Greg. When pointed at her, B becomes nervous and pukes herself, so she goes to get her t-shirt changed. Sophie is a sober addict, but she relapses because of the situation they are in. The girls are now arguing that the killer might be Max, since he might have felt humiliated the previous day. At this point, Sophie gets angry that her best friend is dead and that they are blaming each other. She calls out to Emma for loving the comfort she got from David and that she was not actually in love with him. Emma lashes out at Sophie that her addiction caused David a lot of headaches, and in the heat of the moment, Sophie calls her spineless, and Emma barges out of the room. On the other hand, B not only changes her clothes, but also puts on some makeup. Meanwhile, Sophie apologizes to Emma, and it comes as a surprise when Emma suddenly kisses her. And in a weird response, Sophie asks Emma if she needs some pills or powder. A while after searching for B, Alice stumbles over Emma's body and screams her lungs out. The other three girls gather at the end of the stairs where Emma's body lies, with the wound on her head. Jordan tells them that she might have tripped and fallen down dead, but Alice is not ready to accept it. She is hellbent that it is the work of the murderer, because it follows the pattern of the game. Later on, seeing that B cares to wear makeup and dress up nicely in such a situation, Alice and Jordan turn their suspicion on her. Jordan tells her that she has looked up her name, but couldn't find it on the graduate list of Utah State. They even claim that B might have tampered with the generator as she has done with Sophie's car. And with this, Alice and Jordan kick B out of the house at that instant, and Sophie does nothing about it. Now, since the girls have locked all the doors from inside, B goes back to Sophie's car. The car has a faulty window from which she unlocks the door. While doing through Sophie's bag for clothes, she finds underwear that matches Jordan's bra, which she noticed in her room earlier. B tries her luck with the main gate, but gains no real outcome. Therefore, she returns back to the mansion and sees Jordan with a gun through the window. She then carefully enters the house through a vent passage, and with the utmost caution, B grabs a hammer from the table and goes to confront Jordan. B reveals that Jordan has a gun and asks her to empty out her pocket. They do not find the gun, but the X-marked paper definitely falls off her pocket. B asks Jordan why she killed David and Emma, and in her defense, Jordan calls B a liar for lying about everything to Sophie. Now B comes clean to Sophie and tells her that she did go to Utah State, but because she had to look after her mom suffering from a mental issue, she dropped out. She even tells Sophie that she did not want to disappoint her, and hearing those vulnerable words from B, Sophie hugs her and reconciles. Just then, Jordan pulls out a gun from the couch and points it at B. She loses her mind and reveals that they never wanted to invite her. Alice also adds that the main reason for Sophie to show up unexpectedly is to beg David to talk with her parents, to unlock her trust fund. They continue that her addiction has been a pain in the butt for them, and to add to the tension, Jordan asks Sophie if B knows that they fornicated in her car. But Sophie tells B that Jordan is simply lying and playing mind games. Sophie says out loud that Jordan hates Alice and her podcast, and hearing this, Alice starts babbling for not acknowledging her hard work and Jordan having an inferior complex. Just then, Jordan shoots Alice in the leg, and the girls start wrestling for the gun. And as a result, Alice becomes the victim of the accidental misfire. Sophie attempts to take the gun from Jordan's hand as they walk up the stairs. However, B sneak attacks Jordan trying to take the gun, and the resulting struggle is Jordan being thrown away from the stair banister. And as she lies in the broken glass bottles, Jordan uses her last breath to tell B to check Sophie's text messages. Next, despite being the only one alive, B and Sophie hide in a room. At this point, B is growing distrustful of Sophie, so asks if she has killed Emma. Sophie questions back to B and asks if she has killed David. B asks in a serious tone if something has happened between her and Jordan, and Sophie immediately responds no and tells her that she loves her. However, B pulls back when Sophie tries to touch her, and with this, she runs away, telling that Sophie frightens her. B keeps on hiding from Sophie under the sun and rises up the next morning. The light exposes dead bodies in different parts of the house. B comes out to the pool area to take a breath of air where Sophie suddenly hugs her from behind. And it turns out that Sophie has the gun with her. She confesses that she had given the pills to Emma, and then she tripped and fell to death. Sophie claims to feel very guilty about it and confesses her feelings. And B hugs her and consoles her, but she's making a calculative move just so she can take the gun. Pointing the gun at Sophie, B demands her phone to look at her texts, but instead of giving it to her, Sophie throws it. B runs to get it, and Sophie is right behind her. In the process, the girls fall into the swimming pool fighting for the phone, and when B gets her hand on the phone, it turns out to be of David. When she unlocks it, B finds a TikTok video where David is trying to pop a champagne bottle with a Gurkha sword like Greg has done. However, he accidentally slit his own throat, which means there has never been a killer all this time. Right then, Max comes and sees two girls by the pool, and David's body lying a certain distance away. Utterly confused and scared for obvious reasons, he asks what happened. Just then, the water fountains operate, and B's notifications start popping up. And just as they notice that the phone has a reception now, the movie comes to an end. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like these. Thanks for watching.